Welcome, excuse me, to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Henrik86, Liam Nedrick, Owen Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Nye by Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'll raise the mic on whoever is in Discord. There's a whole bunch of them, and you can enjoy their conversation while I set it for today's live show.
Good. I gotta say, I was wrong about that that Bob Nodell thing. He's not doing. What I heard was it's not anything with Netflix. It has to do with the they're working on some sort of like YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. I guess it's another way of streaming.
So they're creating their own platform. Anyway.
Yeah. So that's what he was talking about. Yeah.
Does that platform have 15-degree drift?
Yo, I'm telling you, you have to listen to Globuster's show Sunday. He is talking directly to me because I was the one that said he thinks she's the smartest guy in the world. That's the comment that bothered him most.
It's okay. You could get under my skin anytime, Neil.
I was trying to explain it to Nathan, but he wasn't getting my point. I was saying he should have went right from the beginning. He should have said they started talking about Anthony's gravity experiment. That's what led into the conversation about him. But he thinks the whole show was about him.
Well,
what
has he got against Anthony's egg experiment? It was pretty obvious what it was.
Yeah, well, that's why he didn't bring it up. I mean, he didn't say that. I'm saying he didn't say the truth. He didn't say, hey. Well, he did talk about his opinions on gravity. So if you want to count that in there.
He believes in gravity? The heliocentric version? The heliocentric version?
What difference does it make? It's not, gravity's not real.
Well, that's what I'm trying to ascertain here. Is when he says he believes in gravity, is it the same way a baller says gravity, or is it a different gravity?
No, I don't think I don't think he means the gravity the way the ballers do. But
Gotcha.
He thinks that something's pulling us down. That's his thing. Same thing like Mark Sargent.
Probably the monthly mortgage. That pulls everybody down.
Yeah, so.
Morning.
Anyway.
Hey, Redman. Good morning.
What the heck is going on at you over there in the Discord? I can't even unmute myself anymore.
But why are you yelling at Redman? He didn't do anything.
Oh, he goes on Discord too, so I'm wondering if it happened to him too.
Okay, Redman, can you unmute yourself on Discord?
As soon as Nathan comes in, he has to unmute me or either Righteous.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so right. Righteous took my privilege away. I'll deal with him later.
Forget about it.
I love it. Forget about it. Hey, let's revisit yesterday's show. Virus comes on, claims the Earth turns at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. Yet there is no observable Earth-based Coriolis. So either Earth turns underneath stuff, not attached to it, or Earth is not turning. He couldn't get that simple back and forth.
Yeah, that bothered me yesterday.
Well, it didn't bother me. It just shows me he's refusing to deal with absolute reality.
Listen, even Alwyn got upset because we spent all this time with him, and it's like he's smacking us in the face.
No, he was showing how he is avoiding the consequences of the cognitive dissonance he's trying to avoid. It was a perfect lesson for anyone listening, because Nathan was very patient with him, actually. And finally, you could tell Nathan was getting fed up. So the whole point was, you can be patient with the ballers, and it comes down to A or B, and they can't make a decision between A or B. So they redefine words, redefine everything, and make it go longer and longer and longer. But everyone sees what's happening. They refuse to deal with observable reality. If Earth is turning underneath stuff, then you would have Earth-based Coriolis all day long.
Correct.
He refused to deal with it.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah, he just refused to deal with it. That was what's great about it.
So
It took
anyway,
forever, but
that's great. But there was this guy on Discord this morning. His name is Parmesan. So I told him, I said, I want you. He brought this gas pressure out of container.
Hang on. Was he cheesy or what?
I don't know. He was cheesy because he went back to 2015. He was saying
he went to Parmesan cheese. That's what it.
Yeah, so he's saying that you can demonstrate gas pressure out of container, and they do that. They make this vacuum chamber, and they turn.
What did they make, Neil?
This vacuum chamber, which is
that
in
a container?
Yeah, it's a container. He didn't understand that when we were trying to tell him, you're giving us a demonstration, and you already start with a container. And he said they turn them into plasma
in a container.
In a container, and it demonstrates how you can have
gas pressure in a container.
Without a barrier. Yeah.
In the container.
In a container, yeah.
Yeah, he demonstrated gas pressure in a container.
Yeah. And
you can't even show a vacuum without a container.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to tell him. I said, listen, I want you to come to this so-called flat earth debate. The guy's very nice over there, very calm, and they'll gently, if you got a good argument, I would love to hear how this guy Nathan Oakley deals with it. So he goes, can you send me a link? And the guy's at Discord laughing.
Wait a minute, he didn't realize when you brought up that he was using a container that he was already losing?
No.
Something's wrong with these ballers.
Yeah, and then what's his name came in? Wolfgang came in and tried to take him to the Black Swan. We brought him through how there's definitely a geometric position.
Mm-hmm.
He agreed to all of that, and it wouldn't change. If you're in the same place every day, it still should be there. And then he brings up the Black Swan, and then he goes, oh, yeah, I've seen this. I've seen the video of it, and it's not in the same place. In other words, he's not believing the video. So we're saying, what are you talking about? The still shot was taken from the video, and it's at least minimum 15 miles away from where it's supposed to be.
Well, he tied it to the radius, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so based on the radius and your elevation height, the geometric horizon, not ours, theirs, on the globe, has to occur based on your elevation and the
Wolfgang set it
down.
up nice.
Okay, so either his radius is wrong, like Mr. Sensible said, or what?
Oh, he outright claims that. Well, let me tell you how he started it off. First, Wolfgang asked him to demonstrate curvature on Earth. Can you measure it anywhere? So he says, yes, you can measure it. You view a sunset, then you go up higher and you see it again. We were like, and then he's trying to measure between the sunsets, and you can get the curvature of Earth. They're like, hello, we're talking
that's not the Earth.
So, and he dismissed it and went right to
That's an optical thing as you go higher. That's has
Exactly.
nothing to do with curvature.
That was like 2015, 2016 argument to me. That's the
But
first thing I Googled.
it's okay. It's okay for it to be a 2015, 2016 if it's their first time or they want to have it finally beat to death and buried. But as long as they go to other shows that don't beat it to death and bury it, they'll always use it.
Yeah, well, they're claiming that the black swan. Oh, that's what he was saying. He goes, no, in the video, the horizon is in front of the first platform. We're like, what?
What? Really?
Yeah, that's what he was saying. So at that point, I was like, listen, you're a liar. You can't even tell the truth.
I think you should tell him to get his eyes checked.
Yeah. And I had to remind him. I said, listen, this is not the only black swan we have. There's hundreds. And I'm not going out on a limb to say that there's thousands of black swans out there.
Now, if he wants to say the geometric horizon is in front of the first oil platform, but I can't see it, I accept that, and he should admit himself to Bellevue.
Correct.
We can't see the geometric horizon, remember?
Correct.
So how can he see it? How can he see it? If no other baller could see it, how can he see it?
I don't know, but I would love he got the link. I just wanted to come in. And explain this plasma. Saying it was an experiment, but then we're like, where did you observe this? And like
In a
in
container?
day? Yeah, like, and then I was like, so you're saying that's what the sky is? The sky is this plasma? Then he was going on to how there's a downward pulling of the gas, pulls down. I said, oh, so the gas goes down, huh? I said, I think that's not gas behavior, because gas behavior, they move freely in all directions. Correct?
Correct. Unless you have a plasma TV like I do, then it's contained in the plasma TV. In all directions.
All directions.
Well, he lost it when he started off with a container.
Yeah. So I asked him, I said, so you're saying that that's what the sky is? And he's like, well, it could be. There's this demonstration. And if, it could be that we're in the atmosphere. I'm like, no, I had to explain to him what atmosphere was.
What did he say? We were in empty atmosphere?
No, there's this atmosphere, and it could be that this is how it's working. Because that's why I had to say we asked this question, because if Earth is a ball and above us is a vacuum,
Space.
then how are we breathing? You can't give an answer.
Gravity, of course.
He went into this plasma thing, but I think he's bringing it around to gravity.
They always go to gravity.
He said, well, I don't want to say it because you don't like the word. I said, yeah, but okay. So you're telling me that a bending of space-time can do this? Could stop entropy?
First, show me how you bend time.
Yeah. Okay. And that's another thing. And then I said, we're not dealing with Newton anymore, because it's not about Newton anymore. It's about Einstein, right? Einsteinian.
Your friend Albert, huh?
Albert Einstein. We have this problem. I think what's happening is, you can look and say, well, maybe the Earth is moving and I'm standing still. Yes, that is it. Yes. This is my theory. Let me turn the whole world into a nutshell.
So he still has a container, a nutshell.
Yeah. Still with container, this Earth thing. Oh, gosh.
A lot of fun, Neil.
So before we get onto this, do you think that this is a problem here? I've heard that a lot of people want to take back their votes with all the early voters.
Well, I think there's 7 or 11 states that allow that. So why is it a bad thing?
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, because
when the platforms that are supposed to allow freedom of speech and news to flow freely to everyone shut it down, and restrict everyone's right to talk and show things, people then realize later, wait, if I knew that, I wouldn't vote that way. So yeah, if you're in a state that you could change your mind, then follow the law. It's the
Yeah, I
law.
think there's a couple that you can't. I was thinking this the other day. I was saying, wait a second, how come? Like, if I was, say, I'm going down the Biden road, I'm freely able to say that wherever I go, I'm going to vote for Biden. But if people say they're going to vote for Trump, then they get assaulted and ridiculed and stuff happens to their property or there's riots. There's something wrong there.
Yeah, desperate nature. They're hiding something, and as we know, the scripture says, eventually, whatever you're hiding will be in plain sight.
Yeah, there's something wrong that I can't say why when people have to hide because they're afraid of their property getting damaged. Then that should speak volumes alone. But anyway.
Well, you're dealing with baller mentality there too. If the Earth is spinning, we should have Earth-based Coriolis, and that should speak to volumes alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't want to hear it. That's all. They're just.
Yeah, well, I just don't know. I mean, who the heck wants to be in a country that turns to socialism? I don't even know what to do.
We're going to fight. We ain't going to let it happen. That's all. It ain't going to happen.
It's not just your country, by the way. It's all over.
I know, but what are you going to do? What are we going to do?
You do what the forefathers did. You fight for your freedoms. Yeah, it's simple. Or you accept what they do. It's up to you. Everybody has to make a choice.
Remember, the powers that be is much more minority than the rest of us.
That's for sure. So, what's new with you, Flatzoid? Got your fish tank going?
Haven't even got there. I'm so busy working late again tonight.
I miss my fish tank. I used to have such a cool fish tank. What do you have? A saltwater Flatzoid?
No more at the moment. I'd like to get saltwater, but I first have to get rid of the Oscar.
Oh, you had Oscars? I had Oscars too. I used to have them trained. I would have a bell, right, with a string on it, and they used to pull that string when they wanted to eat, which was all the time. Yeah, I had them trained. I would hold a goldfish like I'd say about 8 inches out of the water, and they would jump right out and take them right from my hand. Oscars are very cool, very smart too.
Yeah, I even had Madagascan piranhas at a stage. But I had to separate them because the female and the male were fighting all the time.
Well, I had a very aggressive tank. I had what do you call it? The red devils. I had a managwents. I had a tilapia. I had
tilapia's nice.
Yeah, I had buttercaffrey. These are all aggressive fish. So I throw a piranha. My friend, he owns a pet shop. He was in New York. They're illegal, but he got me one. So I figured this guy's gonna be boss. He has teeth. You could see his teeth. He freaking ran out of the tank. He was hiding under the filter, the piranha. Yeah. And I'm trying to talk to this guy. I'm like, yo, you have teeth. You just bite one of them and you got it. But then I learned they move in schools, not independently.
Yep. Yeah, they work together.
So I had to take him out and put him in a separate tank. So then I threw a goldfish in there, but he just swallowed it, and I wanted to see some action. So I threw a goldfish almost the same size of him in there. And I'm telling you, that was the most vicious thing I ever seen. I felt bad after I did it.
Can any of you...
Yeah, I usually...
Sorry to interrupt.
I usually fed them bloodworms.
Yeah, he swam from the bottom and bit a chunk out of his stomach. Then he went back, and then when he passed by again, he bit his fin off. Then he bit the other fin off. And then he just ripped them apart. There was blood in the tank and everything. I'm like, oh, God.
The most vicious thing I have ever seen. They play-by-play describes it.
Yeah, my wife was there with a mouth open.
Can any of you guys in G Plus share your screen? Are any of you on a PC?
Not me.
Flatzoids, 10th.
No.
Paul, you on a PC?
Sorry, what about? No,
he's dropped.
Cell phone at the moment.
I might save it for another time then, just for when you can actually see it, rather than having to watch the replay. A friend of mine has got a red-tailed It's either a hawk or an eagle. He did say to me. I'll have to play the video back because he says it on the video. But a red-tailed, let's call it an eagle. Although I think it's a hawk. Anyway.
Red-tailed hawk.
Red-tailed hawk. Yeah, I thought so. And I'm just chatting away with my mate, talking about him tuning his Subaru and turbos and stuff. And then a guy who I know he knows, he's not a friend of mine, he's a friend of my friend's, just walks around the corner with this massive bird of prey on his arm, just sitting there. I'm like, wow, what the hell?
That's cool.
Very cool, because I didn't know. I've chatted to the guy in passing a few times. Next thing you know, he's standing there with this bird of prey on his gauntlet. I'm like, wow. I was like, can you get it to do the... I said, can I film it? And he's like, yeah, no worries. So I start filming, and I was like, can you get it to make its wings spread out? He just clicked his fingers. Out they go. And I'm like, my God, it's like 6 foot wide. It was enormous.
They're right under a bald eagle in size.
I'll just I'll put it up for the audience just because I've talked about it now. So otherwise the moment will pass because we're talking about that particular thing. But I'll chuck it on so you can see it for the audience, and you'll have to watch
That's
it.
very cool. I had the opportunity to be with a falconer, and he had a falcon, and we went up. And man, we went out in the country at that time, and he just let it go, and just fun to see him hunt. He came back just like they show.
Yeah, but with them, they're not for their size, but for their speed. Oh my God,
they're fast. Yeah,
I think I was exaggerating. Now I've seen the video back. It was probably more like 4 foot, but there we go. It seemed like it was massive when it was right next to me.
No, but they go 4 and above. Depends on where.
Right.
Where they are. Like in New York, they're really big, the red-tailed hawks. So I know what you're talking about. But they're big birds.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I have 6 pine trees in the front of the property, and one of them is the nest. And every year, it's a red-tailed hawk nest. And every year, they give birth to their baby hawk, and you see them training them how to fly. And I've even had them come down when I'm watering and just be next to me. I mean, I'll send you that picture. That's incredible.
I was driving. I was picking up a rent-a-car upstate. And I'm driving. All of a sudden, there's this I see a shadow go in front of the car. And then sure enough, like 20 feet in front of me, there's a scramble on the road. And it's a freaking bald eagle. I think it was grabbing something dead on the road. But I've never seen one other than a picture or on TV. I was freaking like, oh, shoot, a bald eagle. I got in a car. I started videotaping it, and then he flew into the trees. But it's amazing when you see one other than TV, you know? Pretty cool. And it was big.
Talking of wildlife, there's a bloody fox that keeps digging up the grass outside my window. So, not that it's a massive problem. Other than the neighbours, I live in an apartment complex. So people walk past that particular spot that's right outside my window and then stand there for 10 minutes discussing it. Right, it's right outside right now where I'm sat. So it's like I'll be in the middle of the show and suddenly 2 of the neighbours will turn up right outside my window, directly beneath it, and start jabbering on. I wonder what caused this. It's like, I know what caused it, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm in the middle of a show.
That's funny.
Could just pop myself on mute, lean out. It was a fox. Now bugger off.
That's funny.
Looks like we've got a jam-packed, diverse Discord panel today. Happy days.
Trying to find out who took my Discord privileges away.
Flat Earth Egypt, can you pop yourself on mute, please? Thank you. Don't get frustrated with a cum virus. Not because he's my pet. I'm just talking in general terms. So before he came on, I described the fleeting moment of cognitive dissonance with a short pause. That's the best we get. You're never going to get that concession. While I dramatically denounce the person for not giving it me for for 30 straight minutes in some instances. I know I'm not going to get it. I'm labouring the point. And like I say, the best we're ever going to get is that 1 or 2 second silence, followed by their processing that's led them to want to change the subject or whatever they do, whatever obfuscation tactic they employ. That's as good as you get.
That's a little bit frustrating, though,
Not
because I
really.
see you laboring it, and he just will not concede to certain things.
Picture a political
It
debate.
does bother me.
Just picture a political debate, right, where you've got 2 candidates. At no point during the political debate is one of them going to say, you know what, you're right. Your policy's miles better. That's never going to happen, is it? It's about who convinces the audience of their argument as opposed to who gets a concession. And it's nice to get one. Occasionally you'll get people who aren't particularly well versed with debating and they will actually concede. I mean, it does happen. It's happened once, maybe.
Yeah, but this is the nature of reality we're talking about here. We're not talking about politics or schemes or what your plans are. This is reality. So it should be approached differently, or it should be received differently.
You're only half right. Yeah, what we're debating about, the nitty-gritty details of what we're talking about is definitely correct. Yes, 100%. We're talking about what we see, experience, feel, reality. Yes. However, that's not what we're actually dealing with. What we're dealing with is often a fundamentalist religious zealot's perception of reality, what he thinks is reality, or she. So, no, we're not necessarily taking apart reality. In fact, quite the opposite, right? We're taking apart anti-reality, and when we're dealing with the people we debate against, we're fighting against their not reality and taking that apart. So we're often spending most of our time detailing or unpicking things that aren't actually occurring in physical reality. You have to, or at least I try to, pepper that in every so often so that people are well aware that while we're talking about Coriolis effect, that's a real effect, just not observable on a spinning Earth, because we're not. But you can get lost in that when you're having to argue to a fundy that, no, if you've got Coriolis effect, you've got Coriolis effect everywhere, and it doesn't just stop happening on the equator or the sun wouldn't rise. You know, but if someone just listens to that particular bit of the debate, it sounds like I'm arguing for the case that Earth should turn under the sun. So unless I pepper in, and that does not happen, your general audience can get lost in the debate.
Hey, Nathan, I sent you the picture of the hawk. And when it gets hot, they let me cool them down, too.
You know, 10th Man, now I'm really jealous. You know, I hear you saying stuff on your farm and I get jealous, but now I'm really jealous.
Jealous about
this picture of a shadow. I don't see. Is the hawk this thing in the middle?
He's in the foreground. Yeah, he's in the foreground. I'm going to send you one with me watering him because it was a hot day.
Not in the foreground.
Well, I'm sorry. Did I say you don't see him?
Well, I mean, if this little thing in the middle, right in the just right of frame, is it.
Well, it's a shadow. Then there's a tripod where the water thing is. I'm on to another picture, so I have to go back and look at that one. Hold on. I'm sending you the one where I'm watering them.
Watering them?
Yeah. It was like over 100 degrees, and they saw me watering, and they came, and it was awesome.
Okay.
I'd say.
Very good. Can't really make much out, but.
Hang on. I see him. Do you see him or what? Is the picture not coming through?
Yeah, those 30 pixels.
Well, hang on. Just let it set. It's a live shot, so if you just wait, he'll clean up.
I can't see anything.
Okay.
Let's not worry.
It's one of those.
Is that shadow straight?
Don't do it to us.
Oh my. All right, I'm going to take a picture of the picture and send it. How's that?
You can zoom in and.
Yeah, I just zoomed in and took a picture.
Okay.
So here it comes.
Oh no, I see it. It's a Master B. I was looking on the Nathan's
No, it's on Master B.
Yeah, I see it now for sure. Beautiful.
There you go, Nathan.
Okay, that's better.
Wow.
Excellent.
Every year.
That's why I don't understand when you ever get into talks with people, if you could be an animal, which one would you be? And I hear freaking lions and tigers and polar bears. I'm like, are you stupid? Would you not want to be an eagle soaring through the air?
No.
But no.
I'll be a person again. How's that?
No, but come on. That wasn't available. You could pick an animal to be for a day.
There's a line in Red Dwarf where Cat gets asked that, and he says it's better to spend an hour as a tiger than a whole lifetime as a worm. And the reply to that is from Rimmer, whoever heard of a wormskin rug?
I did catch that Red Dwarf. I found something on YouTube. It's like the 10 greatest Red Dwarf scenes. So I gotta try and find the full video. Like, why can't you get that on Netflix?
Talking about some situation comedy from the 80s and 90s that like had drabbles here and there. British, very British humour.
Yeah, it takes a while for the British humor to hit here. I remember we didn't get Benny Hinn till we were what? Benny Hill we got in 1978, I think it came to TV in New York. And I was in Catholic school, so we were forbidden. No watching Benny Hill.
Yeah, I was told no watching Life of Brian.
Don't know what that is.
Monty Python?
Oh, Monty Python's Flying Circus?
No, Monty Python's Life of Brian.
I didn't see that one, but we got the Flying Circus.
We are all individuals.
You are into
that,
flying, Neil, that's for sure.
then for that you must be mad. No? Life of Brian? Very blasphemous.
Not familiar.
It's all about them mistaking Brian for Jesus, so to speak. By a few chance coincidence, people end up worshipping him as the Messiah, and he ends up getting crucified. The end. No? Fair enough.
Well, that's a bit sacrilegious.
Little bit.
Past a little bit. I remember in the 70s, it was Costa Mesa, California. Went out to like a eatery called Denny's. There's this guy out there with a robe, long hair, trying to mimic himself to be like Jesus. So I said, this is interesting. So I went up to him. I said, excuse me, who are you? He goes, I'm Jesus.
What'd you expect?
And I said to him, aren't you supposed to be coming in the clouds? Oh,
what they say to that?
Nothing.
Well, you know what's interesting?
Bunch of false. I've met several Jesuses through my life. People who think that they're Jesus.
One of my first preaching, things that I did was we went to the Mardi Gras, and what was it? I think it was '99. Well, it could have been 2000. I'm not sure. But over there, they all have costumes on. There's one guy every year. He comes as John the Baptist, and we were preaching in the French Quarter, and a bunch of militant homosexuals were threatening to put us on John the Baptist cross and throw AIDS-infested blood on us if we didn't shut up.
Sounds lovely.
It's crazy.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Chocolate Saiyan, Paul Hall, Neil, Flatsoid, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello.
Good morning, everybody.
Get it on.
Hello. Morning.
Good morning, all of you. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon? Hey, Arwin, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Nope.
No, Owen is not a gym.
It is dire, man.
Hello. No, geometric considerations, that is it. And they often overlook that. They just take the geometric considerations for granted and basically dislocate that routine from, solid footing. I recognize this because it was discussed this morning on the Flat Earth arena over at Miggy's. Neil was in there too. And this guy was doing that like nobody else.
Oh, you were there, Ron, when you heard him
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
that you take a picture and then you go up higher and you could take another picture and then measure it, the time.
Shout out to Trade Door for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Any evidence of axial rotation?
Any evidence of reference frames?
In the model.
You and your reference frames have been ruined. End quote, Simon Dan.
Thanks,
No believes in them, though. The ones in his model, that is.
Anyone on the Flat Earth side got any reference frames?
No, but they have infinite.
They need two for Coriolis effect for Earth to turn underneath stuff not attached. Shame we don't see that effect. Earth's not turning under anything. We're not seeing anything drift away from us.
What kind of frame do I have to refer to specifically?
You turning underneath stuff not attached. If it was happening, we'd see stuff drift away. We don't, because it isn't. Earth isn't turning. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
What is the sun?
Question? I don't know.
Well, if we find out what it is, maybe we can get a distance.
It just seems like a light apparition to me.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Nope, it's a reification fallacy.
You can't have scientific evidence of a concept.
Right. And gravity to them is a force, even though it's not actually a force, which is very confusing to them.
You covered it in your first answer. Excellent answer. It's a reification fallacy. Misplacing concrete nature or force in this example for something which is conceptual. Pseudo-Riemannian force-based time bending. Yeah, not real. Merely reified into existence by idiots, even though their priests tell them it's not a force. Anyway, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics, talking of the priesthood?
Yeah. I roughly directly asked that question on Natural News yesterday, but the comment was deleted, of course.
Yeah, you did went through it, though. It's nice that you read it, because your sentiment was spot on about science.
Yeah, well, I didn't like that comment, I think.
Yeah, well, you took them up to the roots, so.
I'm automatically banned from making comments in most places. So just to see, I got used to this years ago, but you'd make a comment on some innocuous video, you go back and it had gone. You'd be like, okay, so basically my account isn't allowed to make comments. You'll go into certain videos. So for instance, there's a guy called That Umbrella Guy or The Umbrella Guy. He covers the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial at the moment, and I'm quite interested in it. So part of it took place in Britain, and I'm allowed to comment there. But then yesterday he put out that he's subcategorized as sort of, I think he said, left-wing conspiracy. That's how he's categorized within YouTube's algorithm. So it's like, all right, so I'm allowed to comment there. Okay, because of the way he's classified. So I'm interacting with the chat and it's really weird. Suddenly people are saying hello to me in a chat that's not my own. You know what I mean?
Hold on, I have to retract that statement because I'm checking it out now and the comment's actually there. So it just I didn't see it was in the hold, but it is actually there. So he didn't.
Is it there for you? Or have you had responses?
Somebody had a comment on it, and I got an upvote and a downvote, by the way, too.
So somebody did respond, so it is visible and can be responded to.
I'm presenting it right now.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't see. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, if you're getting responses to it, then it's visible.
Right, so yeah, my apologies. Apparently there is no censorship of flat earthers.
Not in my experience. Speak for yourself.
On this specific website with me.
With you and you specifically on that specific website, Arwin is not censored. Let's get that clear. Hey,
thank you for not censoring me. I really appreciate it, Mike Adams and crew.
Yes,
thank you.
Indeed.
All right.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Have to think about that one.
Well, as far as I know, the heat comes from above, which radiates off the ground. It doesn't come from the ground itself. So, no.
In the future, they will perfect P waves and S waves to the degree that they will be able to show you that there is a presupposed molten iron core down there. So they believe. Or they will simply disprove the entire assertion permanently by their own data. Maybe they already have the technology, they just don't want to use it. Like that. Huh?
They can't drill further than 12k. What chance have they got of getting these inaccurate P waves and S waves to work when that particular dig didn't match what they predicted they'd dig through? So, no.
Right. I can respond to that, though. It's not really scientific evidence, but look, that was a long time ago, decades, right? When they did that. But maybe they can redo it. Maybe they have redone it. Maybe to do it in giant underground complexes in the United States.
Wow.
And they've actually... Finish. Come on, let me finish. And they're actually just doing it again, and this time it does kind of match. Doesn't mean that they can actually go all the way down, but maybe they have somewhat perfected that technique slightly.
I was going to ask, why don't they do it somewhere else?
I have to say, sorry, Owen, then you haven't been watching NASA. Remember, the worst technology they had more success than with the technology we have today. So obviously they'd be getting worse with the technology.
You're thinking of rockets.
That's just the public technology.
No. That's wrong. You're thinking of rockets in operation in a fake place. The operation of rockets in a fake medium called the sky vacuum, otherwise known as outer space, has got more difficult as time goes on, completely bucking the trend of technology getting better as time progresses. But nevertheless, they're only operating in a fake place. So it's like saying, well, over time, the Turkish delight has got worse in Narnia. Over time. Typically, the trend is that the Turkish delights get better as the machines get better. But in Narnia, it doesn't work that way. So let's all concern ourselves with how good the Turkish delights are in Narnia. No, we don't need to concern ourselves with the lack of technology to visit the fake place they claim they're going. That's irrelevant. But it's not the dig.
I have a comment. Like when Don Pettit says about the moon landing, like, oh, they don't have the technology anymore. It's too difficult to put it back. What he's actually saying is, yeah, I know that happened. we don't know how we were able to get away with it in the first place, and we're just too afraid to try it again.
Yeah, that sounds more like it. We don't know how we got away with blagging that we had things going to this sky vacuum we claim is up there, but now it's just that much more difficult to lie about it convincingly. Shout out to Al Junkie, says, just need the toilet. Lots of P waves. Is that what he said? Let's just get that on the other screen. Sorry, so I'm reading it off the projector. Maybe that is actually what he said. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, though, Al Junkie. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay.
Well, according to Jazza, we have not proven that the sky is fake.
Oh, I get a joke. He says, just went to the toilet. Lots of P waves. Thumbs up. Very good. Toilet humour. Don't tell me what the S waves are. I'm not interested.
NASA's full of it, though.
Full of S waves.
Oh, full of toilet humor.
Indeed.
Shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
No need. It was suggested. It was implied. Okay, thank you. Moving on.
Yeah, dirty humor.
Yeah, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container?
Gas pressure. That reminds me of. Sorry.
According to somebody on Discord today, you can. He described an experiment that's not an experiment, in where you have a vacuum chamber and something with plasma, and the plasma keeps the gas molecules from expanding.
So, in answer to the question of how you can have gas pressure without a container, they're saying here's gas pressure without a container in a container.
Correct.
Right.
I invited him to come on the show.
That
and
was
explain
legit
it.
the first thing he said, too. I was listening to that.
Yeah, the plasma gas. Remember that? The plasma gas.
So hopefully he comes on the show.
Any demonstrations or evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Well, plasma gas, maybe.
Sorry, can you show me plasma gas pressure without a container?
Well, this guy thought he could, overlooking that plasma is not really a gas, though. So it's kind of a red herring, actually.
Yeah, but by the same token, I'd be more concerned about the container it took place in.
This is just the old story of it being kept together with magnets again in a lesser pressure chamber.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's in a container, then, is the main point.
Correct.
Yeah.
The reason I highlight that is because the question itself specifically states, how can you have gas pressure without a container? And his reply is to say, what we do is we take a container. They're idiots. They're like really stupid.
Well, Jazz is no better. It tells you to go to a plane.
Go on, Flatsoid.
It's like they don't even want to try use logic.
Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Wasn't that answered in the first question?
Technically, yeah.
Yeah, I've said that before, Neil.
It's going to be difficult, though, because you got to go with geometric considerations to even start anywhere with it, at this point.
Like a defensive shield, so if you don't mention the R value as a question, it might fall into the wayside and just start getting reasserted. Now, don't get me wrong, that defensive shield is so effective at the moment that they're very, very quiet 90% of the time, which is fine by me. But, like I say, if you just asked any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, otherwise known as Earth curve, yeah, you're implying that they derive it by way of begging the question fallacy as a physical location with an R value, but that's just implied. So, no, I specifically want to ask the question, is there any evidence of the R value? Because the precursor to having it is destroyed, but the argument to wreck the sphere Earth assertion in the first instance is to point out that they assume the R value. Now, when we pointed out that they assume the R value, they went, well, we just know it's a sphere, and then you have to have the black swan. So the top of the layer, the top layer of the cake, if you will, is the R value, and the next layer down is actually the black swan. Now, to me, because it's such an important debunking, it's right at the top of the list. It's always going to be the first thing that's asked, because the assertion that we're on a sphere comes with Earth having curvature, and we don't have any. So that will be always the first question, and we round out with any evidence of the R value, just so at the end of the housekeeping, like about now-ish, after the answers, if there are any about R values, which there aren't probably, the person that might enter into a discussion with us is very much aware that we will just point out that you don't get to beg the question and just assume an R value with things like hemisphere and all the other layers that they have underneath that. There you go, that's my justification for still asking it, in spite it being encompassed in the first question about physical geometric sphere edge horizons, which we do not have. Shout out to Retro Bill for the super chat. Well, just before I do, any evidence of the R value?
Yeah, well, R is nothing but the mathematical wrapping around of the flat Euclidean geometry of the real situation here in this realm onto a sphere. That's what it is. That's literally what it is, and that's the only thing it ever was.
So Retro Bill took his chances, and he did it, didn't he? He said, just went to the toilet, lots of S-waves. Open brackets, sorry guys. No, it's fair enough, you paid $5 to do it. So you can have your moment with your toilet humour.
You made a slippery mess of it.
Yeah.
It makes geology sound like you're a toilet cleaner or something.
Yeah, it sounds like a rim block or a disinfectant or something.
Speaking of his super chat, if Coriolis was real, he wouldn't be able to pee in a toilet.
No, I don't want to get into this argument about whether or not it's in the inertial or non-inertial reference frame, thank you. But I appreciate the sentiment. Could be argued either way. Has a stream of water coming out of a hose left the non-inertial spinning reference frame? I would say yes. It's no longer attached once it comes out of the hose, like a bullet's no longer attached. Therefore, you should see deflection, and that's your point. The water should deflect. As soon as it comes out of the hose, it's no longer attached. Correct? I think that's your point. Better to be made with a hose.
Yes.
Or you could say it was being made with a hose. Another shout out to Al Junkie. Says FED and QE have swanilated the globe. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much for the super chat, Al Junkie. Welcome back, Paul. Check.
Hello. Sorry, I jumped off earlier when you was asking me a question. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's okay. Especially as I can't even remember what the question was.
If anybody was on a PC.
Oh, it was about, I just showed it for the audience only. It was only so you could share it with the guys in the Hangout. They can see it on the pre-show. Members will get to see it before they do. Privileged.
Let's talk about, and keeping on the same subject, clouds above us that move in different directions that we've all seen.
Still missing a housekeeping question.
Which one would that be, Neil?
Any viable evidence?
Any viable evidence?
For what?
Yeah.
For what?
Very useful. Thanks,
You
Neil.
mean viable hypothesis or scientific evidence?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I did do
But,
that.
For the whole works, astronomy, astrology, and all that.
Yeah,
we did.
that thing.
Yeah, we did that one.
I drop them in subtly. It flows, Neil. It flows. Got to pay attention.
I must have dozed off for a second.
Well, thank you very much.
Shots fired.
So back to the clouds above us that go in 2, 3, even 4 directions at times that we've all seen. Is Earth turning?
No. But however, if we were, we would see them deflect at 15 degrees an hour. That would be 1,000 miles an hour as we turned underneath the clouds. If we had Coriolis deflection, that would be the effect at the equator. They'd drift away 15 degrees an hour, 1,000 miles an hour. That's what you'd see. We don't. They've got all directions, right?
So what do we see? We see them go in all directions, which means we are stationary.
Yeah, we're not turning underneath as a second non-inertial spinning reference frame, turning at 15 degrees an hour for us to see the clouds flying away from us 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. That doesn't happen.
You know, Jazz Calendar came back with his his most famous argument to date, that chemtrails somehow prove we live on a globe.
Yeah, that was hysterical.
Remember that?
No, I don't. That's not familiar to me, and it sounds absurd.
No. Yeah, he's come here like 2-3 years ago to argue that somehow or another chemtrails proves that we live on a globe, because he can see them appear to come up from one horizon and go down to the other.
Oh my God!
Oh,
this
right.
has got to be.
Yeah.
Perspective. That
I mean, this has
Remember
got
that?
to.
Yeah. He's back with that this morning.
It's got to be back long before we did endless presentations to people like Life is Short, who's one of my patrons. But his show, 3-parter, is published on the channel where we go through perspective in excruciatingly clear detail. So it's not that it's not concise, despite it being maybe 3-4 hours long across those 3 separate shows. So clearly he made that argument before we went through what perspective was, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about like the early 200s, 300s. So yeah, this was a while ago. Even 100s when I first got here. So yeah.
Okay, a bullshit trench level baseless assertion. Well, chemtrails prove we're spinning, or whatever.
It sounds like him too.
My apologies to any Aussies out there. That was actually an attempt at an impression of a particular individual, as opposed to just a bad Australian accent.
Yeah, because that one's usually inebriated. So
Yeah.
that made sense.
Well, that might not help the Aussies narrow it down. I'm only joking, Aussies.
So when someone comes back with the same argument years later, are they not listening to anything that's said to them?
Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, well, to answer your question, yes, they are. What do you think that happen? What do you think happens though? It goes in and does not compute. Well, in a computer, that would cause it to crash, right? What do you think happens to a person when that happens?
It's like playing a computer game. They play the game, then it's not fun anymore. They got the counter arguments, they got a hint of it, then they drop it, forget about it, and then later it's like, oh, pick up that old game again. That's kind of what it kind of was to me back in the day. Multiple occasions, you know? It's just an old flame. You forget about it and it's like, oh wow, that was awesome. Yeah, space, this and that. And then you kind of forgot all that stuff you were confronted with through science and physics and all that. You kind of forget about it and you just look at the nice images again and then you go through it again.
Yeah,
and
you
again
can't.
and again.
You can't,
But
though,
then
can
it gets
you?
boring.
You can't forget it, though. That's my point, right? Once you've
Yeah,
got the
you can.
information, as much as you might want to have not taken the red pill, in metaphorical terms, it's already been digested, right?
No.
Once you've peeked behind the
You can
curtain,
literally swallow that stuff and just let it pass it through your system without having it affected you. That's how.
you think it doesn't affect
with
them?
us. They have a defense. They have immunization against flat Earth. They can literally hear us, repeat us, and not understand a single word of what we're saying, but mechanically remember it in order to use it.
No, man.
See?
Nah.
That's what they do. Yes.
Well, okay. I beg to differ on what I perceive on the show. So I hear those moments, those little tiny cracks in their voice when they're at that point, that very particular moment where I know they're processing the information and processing the consequences of conceding. I hear that. Now maybe I'm just imagining it. Maybe those 2-second pauses followed by an obfuscation. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, you're not
Nope.
wrong. They do get pressured, and when they get pressured, they get confronted, and it's unpleasant, of course.
That's what I was going for. Got
As
there
a
in the end.
standard response, they do this.
Hold on, that's where I was driving to. So yeah, we got there in the end. So pressure or to put it another way, cognitive pain.
That's the form it can take, indeed. Although usually it already leads people to escapism way before that. Because, yeah, you can literally hang up in a conversation like this and walk away and forget about it. And you might be surprised how many times that happens in physical real life.
Yeah.
Well, on the internet, people really latch on and never let go and just try to troll the shit out of you.
Yeah, well, because they're engaged in... A lot of the people who face us are kind of sad beta cucks that have no life, dweeby people, and they can involve themselves in the fantasy. So imagine the dude that's playing Dungeons and Dragons. Not that I'm knocking Dungeons and Dragons player, but, you know, if they're a kid...
You better not.
16, 17 years
I was
old,
gonna say.
they're well involved in the fantasy, but then their mom comes in and says, "You didn't really get downstairs." It kind of ruins the moment, doesn't it? Right? It takes you out of the fantasy. Well, the problem with the globe model is the entirety of the model is a suspension of disbelief. Now, when you're suspending disbelief, when you've got the idea that this black bit's a sky vacuum and you're standing on a sphere, something can very easily come along to shatter that. That's why it needs continual reinforcement, because it's so easy to shatter the suspension of disbelief, whether or not you're aware that you're doing it or not. Now, when we're shoving it in their face, this is how you're suspending disbelief. This is a model. This is a reification fallacy. This is how it doesn't work. This is how reality works. That's going to shatter the suspension of disbelief. So suddenly, what do you get when that happens? Well, you get disbelief. Suddenly, you're in that position where you don't believe the thing that you thought was real about the thing you're watching. Now, the only reason I know how to describe this is because it's a performing arts term. So if you've got somebody who is in that state, they are called alienated. In other words, they're no longer engaged with the performance they're watching. And that's all the globe is. A performance. Stage show. And in order for it to work, you, the participant audience member, has to suspend disbelief. Now, if you are unaware, because it's now subconscious, because you've had it from a child, that you just are in a space vacuum on a sphere, then you are suspending disbelief at a subconscious level when you engage with anything spherical. That being a sphere-shaped Earth. Now, you may not be aware of that, but when it's pointed out, as it is here, that break stops them being capable of suspending disbelief, if only for a moment. Now, that's not going to go away. You can't unsee once you've peeked behind the curtain.
Right. The difference is, though, with a stage show, with a performance, you know you're watching it. When you're watching a movie, you know you're watching a movie.
No,
However,
that's not true.
With this, it's all secret. They don't know it's not real.
It's not
and
true.
That makes it,
Let me give you an example.
Performance, a spell.
Okay, I get it. Yeah, it's a spell. That's my point. No, you're wrong. So the example I gave, and I'm going to stick with it, is great because it's Superman. Most people have seen Superman, and he flies up and you see the globe. There's 2 layers of suspension of disbelief in that shot. You're suspending disbelief that a man can fly around a sphere. Now, you will recognise the first layer of suspension of disbelief in the fact that men can't fly. Oh, well, what about the people in the ISS? Oh, we'll come back to that layer. My point is that you suspend disbelief that Superman can fly out into the sky vacuum, and you forget that the sky vacuum has never been experienced by you. It's part of a philosophy. It's not real in physical terms. You've never seen the Earth as a sphere. All of those things are also suspensions. They're just not at a conscious level.
Absolutely, 2 layers. Yeah, you talked about that before. It's very good to keep that in mind, because you know some things are fake because you're being told they're fake. Other things you might not realize they're fake because everybody thinks it's real. There you go.
Not only the lack of disbelief, but you also, for their model to work, they also need trust. So we got a lot of people that'll come in, especially to like 24/7 Discord, and they'll say, well, yeah, I trust the scientists. I trust my parents. I trust, the people I see on television, right? Even their own side, when they come out with an article named How to Debate a Flat Earther, they go through all this nonsense about their evidence, and then at the end of the article they tell you, well, it's not really about evidence and arguments, it's about a lack of trust. This is why the flat earthers don't believe that it's a globe, because they lack trust. And that's how you should approach them. You should try to build that trust. Well, if they had actual evidence, proof of this nonsense, we wouldn't need trust. We would just be validated. But their entire model exists on that trust that is built from when you have a little solar system mobile over your crib. And then you turn on your cartoons, and you got your globe on the cartoons, and then you got a globe in your classroom. And your parents are telling you, oh, yeah, it's a globe. And everybody tells you it's a globe all your life. Well, that's how you build that trust. So I understand sometimes when it's hard for people to reach a point when they're like, oh, these flat earthers, they're saying something, but it's going against everything that I've built in my life, all the things that I've trusted. And that hurts, and that causes pain. I have people who tell me I have a headache talking to you sometimes. I'm like, I know. I understand. I'm sorry, but I'm not really sorry.
You know what other group of people experience the exact same... Do you know what other group of people would experience the exact same emotional response and pain, as you put it, when they're having something pulled apart? The other group of people that would parallel that perfectly would be ex-cult members. So it's put to them that their way of life that they've been isolated into and only experienced, well, everybody who's on the globe is in exactly the same boat as somebody who's in a cult, constantly subjected to an idea of the philosophy that the cult adheres to. And what is it these people in these, you need to convince them with trust? Look up how people get people into cults. Yeah? That's how they do it. Not with justified, reasonable... No. Get their trust. That's what they do. So, if you didn't know it already, you're in a cult. That's what the globe is. It's a cult based on a philosophy. Now, to snap you out of this, just so it makes a bit more sense, the subcategories of the heliocentric cult, like Scientology, based in the exact same paradigm, it's only one step removed from heliocentrism, but it's in exactly the same family. Now, the people on the heliocentric model look at Scientologists like they're kooky. No, they've got the exact same model as you. Just another cult. Just another subset of your cult, with your spinning ball in a vacuum, in violation of natural law. Not nature, not real. Just how you're brainwashed by whoever who is ever in charge of you. Most of you slave to your television sets. Now, I may be saying this to people who are already converted or unconverted, as the case may be, ex-heliocentric cult members. But if you're constantly subject to the brainwashing to keep you in that paradigm, keep you suspending that disbelief, and they literally tell you, well, if you come across somebody that doesn't believe, you've got to get their trust, and you've got to get them to believe in our scientists, because that's what they call their priesthood. Incorrectly so. But that's what you've got. You've got a priesthood of scientists, in quotes. And that's what you've got. Gain people's trust.
I shared it in Ballbusters if you want to put it on your screen.
In Ballbusters?
Or Masturbate. I think it should be in both of them.
What is it? Arguing from evidence. Is that what you want?
Yeah, this is from that article, How to Debate a Flat Earther. That space.com came out with.
Yeah, I've got it on screen. If you want to read out the bits you've got underlined, I can tell your handwriting.
Right, so part I wanted to point out, basically, however, and this is the author of the article, however, I don't think this discussion is really about actual evidence or the scientific process. People who believe that the Earth is flat aren't coming to that conclusion from the same types of observations. They instead believe that we are being misled and lied to, that scientists, including me, want you to believe that the Earth is round despite its flatness. So the question isn't why do people believe in a flat Earth, but rather why do people believe in a conspiracy? And the answer is the same reason it always is, a lack of trust. So there you go. They're telling you right there, well, these flat earthers apparently lack the trust.
Do you know there's a you know what a synonym for trust is? Chocolate? You know what a synonym for this?
Go on, synonyms for trust. What are they?
Faith.
Faith. Yeah, of course. Belief, faith.
Yep. So that's
Yeah.
basically what they're telling you. They're telling you guys, or they're telling the people that follow their model. Well, the people that are against you, who believe in the flat Earth, they don't have the same faith that you do. They don't believe. They don't trust us. So try to build with them. Try to rebuild that trust. As opposed to, like in the first paragraph, this is not about evidence and arguments
I was
or
just
the
going to ask, what
scientific
about the
process.
evidence?
Nah, man, they did that in the first paragraph. They're like, nah, don't worry about that. Even though earlier in the article they started with, all the evidence of the globe. It starts with the horizon, which I found adorable. So, yeah. And by the end of the article, they're telling you, nah, don't worry about the evidence or arguments. Just try to build trust. Because, like I said before, that's the only way the globe exists.
So they want to build trust without evidence of what they say is reality. How does that work?
It works. I've had people tell me straight up, I don't need to prove the globe to myself. Thousands of people have done it before me, people that are smarter than me, and I have no interest in proving it to myself or for myself. There's no reason for me to do that. Thousands of people before me have done it. I trust them.
Yeah, the cult leader said the Kool-Aid makes us stronger, and thousands of people have drunk the Kool-Aid. I believe the thousands of people who drank the Kool-Aid because they were told it was correct by the scientists who made the Kool-Aid.
That's it.
They also are justifying, as a general populace, the notion that it's okay to beg the question. I already know it's a sphere, so even if that particular person with that mentality ever did enter into debate, they would automatically start their debating journey by having the assumption they're on a sphere and go, well, if the Earth's a sphere, we'll see star rotation in the southern hemisphere. We do, so therefore the Earth's a sphere. And have it
Yeah,
be
but
pointed
shouldn't
out
that
as an...
change when they're presented with that? When we turn around and say, no, here's the evidence we have that we're not in a sphere. Now, somewhere, something's got to give.
Well, you point out that they're begging the question. That's why, again, when I keep the R-value question in the housekeeping questions, is for that reason. When that guy comes along and affirms the consequent with his begging the question fallacy because he already thinks he knows he's on a sphere, because half the world has told him they're all drinking the Kool-Aid, well, then you have to point out, well, no, it's not a justifiable proof to assume the thing you're trying to prove. You're just assuming it. Hemisphere, assuming that you've got antipodal travel when you move to this location, that's assuming you're on a sphere to begin with to make your example. So looking up at the stars from the north or south, who cares? Unless you assume you've travelled antipodal, as you do in your affirming the consequent, if the Earth's a sphere, I'll travel to the southern hemisphere. Well, what if the Earth's a sphere, I'm travelling on a sphere? That's what their statement implies. Begging the question, basically. Well, they don't know they're doing it, but they've been trained to beg the question.
Yeah, but when this is what I'm saying, I'll personalize it. Like when it was brought to my attention the way you just explained it, I got it. And I said, oh, okay. So, like, I don't understand how people are not getting it.
Because of the TV, because of the billboards, because of the constant bombardment of the rhetoric as the standardised rhetoric. It's taught in schools, it's put on billboards, it's used in advertising, it's the common vernacular. Even our language, when we talk about the air we breathe, we use words like atmosphere without even realising it. So the magic trick is part of the language and will self-reinforce until you snap someone out of that. Until you point out, no, you're suspending disbelief here. You've never seen the Earth as a sphere from a place that violates natural law. Outer space is fake. We'd have no gas to breathe. They're claiming to have pictures that aren't real. They can't have had them from a fake place. And if it was spherical, you'd see it curving from the ground as a physical geometric horizon. In other words, you explain it to them, normally taking months on end, with them at the end reasserting, rinse and repeating, because they can't stand the cognitive pain of losing their paradigm or losing their cult. You know, within the cult, they're telling them, look, there's going to be people wandering around here telling you that the cult masters / priests are lying. And, you know, you just need to remember everyone knows we're on a sphere. Just remember that. They go, okay. We all know, do we?
This
We already know.
happened.
I don't have to think about it.
This happened to me when I was in school as a young kid. Also, the chocolate. We've heard this between his story and mine are very similar. I told the teacher, but I don't observe what you're teaching. There's no way it is what you're saying. And I just dismissed it. But there was no flat earth show. There was nowhere to go. It was like, forget it. This is nonsense. And so at times you're in a position where you know you're not observing what they're saying reality is. What are you going to do then when it doesn't go with your observation, your logic, what you know to be true? And this is what the problem with the ballers are, is that they also were there at one time, but they somehow seem comfortable to just stay there.
You know, I just realized something when you said that, Nathan. It's true. We've never seen the Earth as what they told us it is. I've never seen it other than a picture. That just hit me.
I take no credit for that, right? That's Math Powerland. So he was the first to declare that. So you, meaning the public, have never seen the Earth from space. Now that argument has expanded out into you can't have space. Space is fake. You can't get the pictures because you can't visit the place. But it was Math Powerland who was the first to point out you've never seen Earth from that vantage point.
And we never will.
No, because it's not real.
Except for that astronaut the other day. He had to see it.
See what? They're the only people you can actually say are outright liars. You know, you could convince yourself and justify it and say they've been hypnotized. They're in a really convincing simulator. No, they're not. They're on bloody high wire. They've been strapped into those pieces of equipment. They know they're lying.
Well, the video showed you him land, right? And then it showed you people coming and taking him out of the capsule and getting all the equipment off of him. And he was smiling and happy to be back on Earth.
Yeah, and then he went round the planet backwards and the dam repaired itself and she was there at the end in his arms all happy. Yeah.
I actually made it. I actually made a new quote. I posted it in Master B. Yes, it is my quote because the Globers think I'm misrepresenting myself somehow.
I've just got a message from you. Did you want me to read it out or something? Quote, right? Keith Reynolds?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, this is your quote from you. Well, do you want to actually say it then?
Okay, I can. It takes a person of intellect to propose that his view is wrong, but it takes a fool to conjure the fantasy of make-believe over reality.
That's Flatzoid, aka Keith Reynolds.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah, good statement. Caused a moment of reflection. Did you want me to present this chocolate I've just had come through?
Yeah, if you want. I was gonna, while it's a little quiet here, I was gonna go through it real quick to point out. I like pointing out irony. So
objects like mountains. Is that where I'm starting?
Damn, which one did I send you? Hold up. Well, I wanted to start from the one. Oh, damn, I'm sorry. I'm all confused. Hold on.
Okay.
Which one did I send you? Did I send you? Oh, I didn't send you the one I wanted to. I'm sorry. Give me a second.
That's okay. I like shows where we discuss the cognitive dissonance of our opponents, because that is something we do have here when they come or discuss the matter with us in spades. We get to see that raw It appeals to my evil side. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, you're such a sadist sometimes.
Well, you know, they are bastards to us. So it appeals to me from the perspective that for 5 straight years, or ever since I declared to the world that I am a flat earther, I've suffered ridicule as a result for being a realist, for not accepting the cult's models, for not accepting their pseudoscience. And you think, I've suffered ridicule for that? They're in a bloody cult. So when it's time to dish out a dose of their own medicine, I take that opportunity. I think I've said it before. The audience cheers for it.
I know. I have the same thing. It's just that I would prefer tactically for myself and my own objectives to avoid that level of tenacious glober on average, and just have a conversation with the globers that are a little bit more decent, so you can actually have a creative conversation. But yeah, the debates is what it is, and hey, these baller lunatics are out there, and you're kind of the only one that's really dealing with them. So
Right,
love
so-
that.
I put it up. I put it up, Nathan.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Looking around, right?
So, yeah. So that's the beginning of that article, right? So I'll read it out. To put it bluntly, we know more about the curvature of the Earth than almost any other topic in the realm of physical science. There are so many experiments, observations, and demonstrations that have time and time again revealed the curve of the Earth. And it all starts with the horizon. So we all know where that has gone, right?
Well, let's
So-
detail it. Let's labour it, though. So what's the problem with stating, as the opener to their argument, that the physical science, underlined by chocolate, starts with the horizon? Is the horizon physical?
Well, it starts with the reification of the horizon.
I see. So it starts with turning a non-physical location that moves with the weather into a physical geometric sphere edge horizon. So it starts with the assumption that the horizon's a physical edge for boats to go over. I see. That's not science. A non-physical horizon being reified into a position that can block boats, even though we're told by them isn't physical science, as declared in this statement. But carry on, chocolate. Or is that it?
That's it for this one. So go to the other one that's got the little happy face in
Yeah.
the middle of it. Little smiley
It's up.
face.
It's up. Yeah.
So this was somebody else's actually. So Earth's atmosphere is capable of playing funny tricks on our eyes, with different layers of air bending light into interesting directions. This phenomenon, a side effect of Earth's curvature, isn't a surefire guarantee of our planet's curve, but it's a start. But even if you can't look to the horizon for evidence, you can look up. So they start the article with it all starts at the horizon, and then halfway in the article they tell you how the atmosphere plays funny tricks, and it's not a surefire guarantee of our planet's curve, but it's a start. It's a good start, right? And if you can't look up, look at that, look up. And then at the end of the article, like we read before, they tell you how, it's not actually about the evidence and arguments, it's about trust. What a funny roller coaster this article was.
That's really bizarre, because what it basically is saying is how we've been able to dissect what is really going on and how the presuppositions works, where it starts, with the stars and all that and the horizon. Yep. They're basically using that information and then handing it out as an instruction book.
No.
This is how you do it.
No, that's the standard rhetoric. No. All we've done is expose the standard rhetoric. That's why this show will have longevity. What we've done is exposed how, in their vernacular, they're talking about something having physical evidence. But then when you get to Andrew Thomas Young describing a line of sight to something which you cannot see, you have a physical horizon being reified from maths. Well, the fact that we've exposed that they tell people to, in this terminology, they're not saying reify the horizon into a physical location for boats to go over, and we'll call it Earth curve. They're not saying that. But they're telling you that it starts with the horizon. Well, their model does. We've just exposed why that isn't the case, how it's not physical. And they've had to respond by saying, yeah, it's not physical. It's like, so this isn't physical science. Well, we already exposed that. So, you know, the fact that we're right on the money is only because we're exposing the actual rhetoric for how it's wrong. But it doesn't mean that when they come along and say, well, our rhetoric is to use the horizon as a physical sphere edge. It's like, yeah, that's why it's one of the housekeeping questions. Any evidence of physical science for a non-physical horizon?
I wasn't implying that we literally caused that. It's just that the correlations are astounding. And the way it's put down, yes, you're correct. They don't straight out say it, but the way it's described and how Chocolate read it does seem like a covert instruction manual, basically explaining this is how it works.
It is. It is.
That's normal. But
it is, and exactly. It is. You're right, and that's normal. And we're exposing how that works. Again, it's like with Andrew Thomas Young, the same guy who wrote this article. You couldn't necessarily hold him to task on being in any way nefarious. He probably thinks his article's very good, and he's done a very good job of explaining it. And because he's part of the cult, he's like, yeah, you need to get him to trust you. Well, we explain the line of sight to something we can't see with our physical science for it, which we haven't got. You know, it's all doublespeak.
Yeah, but I think they're putting words in.
Just for clarification, Andrew Thomas.
Because of a lack of trust.
Andrew Thomas Young didn't write this particular article.
No, I know.
This is an article from. Oh, okay.
I'm comparing. I'm just comparing and contrasting Andrew Thomas Young because when I say it's not necessarily nefarious, because he's just towing the line of heliocentric rhetoric in terms of reifying a physical edge. On screen now, National Geographic telling you that the horizon's in front of this flag, not realising it's behind it, but they're still talking about the horizon, aren't they? And how it's a blockage for this flag. Not realising it's actually a black swan proof that we don't have a geometric physical sphere edge for horizon. So it all starts at the horizon. That's just their rhetoric. So the parallels aren't parallels. We're directly addressing their rhetoric. So hearing them parrot it off is like, yeah, that's how the trick works, and we're exposing it here.
I wasn't.
Arwin, you are half right, Arwin.
He's
this
100%
is an
right.
instructional article, Arwin, because it is called "How to Debate a Flat Earther." So it's literally an instruction. It is literally an instructional article telling them how to handle us.
But it's written in such a natural way. It's like the person that basically edited doesn't have to be the original writer of the thing, but it's just been put together so smoothly that it's kind of like an instruction manual without telling you it is in a direct sense. Even though the title, Debate a Flat Earther, it's more about how do we uphold the globe religion without telling you it's a religion, and quickly making you presuppose certain things without realizing it as part of the conditioning, all that. And it can be automated, not implying anything nefarious. It is like automated. You copy it from your programmers. I did that.
The point is, at the end of the day, if you really have evidence, you don't need to have rubbish like this printed.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying. What's this lack of trust? I don't believe in flat Earth because of lack of trust in society. Come on.
Okay, just one sec, just to back up Arwin's point. So when they're programming you without necessarily intentionally doing it or knowing that they're doing it, but it's still part of a magic trick, it's this sentence here. This phenomenon is a side effect of Earth's curvature. Now, they're talking about the refraction of light and saying that it's a side effect of R. That's what they're actually saying. What that means is that it's 7/6R that moves the atmospheric conditions, because we assume 7/6 of a radius, we assume. That's what this means. But the sentence doesn't say, we're going to beg the question, use R and 7/6 of it, and call that refraction, terrestrial refraction. That's not stated. It said the phenomenon, which it isn't, it's a mathematical 7/6R, but there's the lie. This phenomenon, making it sound like it's something occurring in nature. No, it isn't. 7/6R does not occur in nature. And light and its path has absolutely no consequence to the ground beneath it. None. But it's literally stating that it's a side effect of the curved ground beneath it. No, it isn't. Absolutely not how light behaves. It's just stating we're going to use 7/6R and assume that light bends around at the rate of R or a derivative thereof. So he's going to say this phenomena is a side effect of Earth's curvature. No, it isn't. You're just going to use terrestrial fraction, 7/6R.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just one part.
I mean, he was clearly a Freemason. She, he, whoever.
Yeah, as I said, there has definitely been a very careful editor who basically decided on how to present the whole thing, how it will be read. It's a careful editor to how it was all said.
Yeah, and what he's done is reassured his audience.
That lack of trusting. I don't understand that. Lack of trust?
Yeah, you just don't trust in the spell, man. Just trust the Earth is a globe. Everybody trusts that the Earth is a globe, and it always worked out because look at the calculations. Come on.
No, but it has nothing to do with trust. I mean, look at the evidence that's brought to you. I've never seen the Earth as a ball ever, other than a picture. That's not a lack of trust.
Well,
that's a lack of
evidence. If you're a liar, you need people to trust you. So that's what they need.
See, but what you just said, Neil, is exactly what the article is trying to take the reader out of that mind state of, well, those guys, those weird flat earthers, they don't need evidence. They're going to ignore the evidence we provide because they don't trust us. So that's why you need to build trust with them. When we as flat earthers are like, yeah, we don't need trust. If your shit was validated, it would just be validated. We wouldn't need to trust you, right? But that's how the whole thing works, man.
Exactly. With that, I'm going to say, if you're watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you in the next video.
Africa and America and how he got his pillow stuff. But it started out with a globe.
Neil,
so I understand the TV thing.
Yeah, but Neil, don't you understand? The feathers to stuff the thing comes from Africa. Where do you think the ostriches come from?
But I'm saying that it's really crazy. The TV is a reification to reify this ball here. If you watch this TV, then there's no shot for you because
it's a reification
globe after globe.
It's a reification.
Yep. They push the globe wherever they can, even if it's got nothing to do with something. They're still going to show a globe.
Yeah,
I've seen it with my child's programs.
Well, the same thing was with the radio, though. You know, it started all with the radio, and I'm convinced that back in the days, they would, like the elders, the older people in the family, they would call them devil boxes. I'm assured of this. I know it.
Right.
They would call it that. Because
From
of
what I heard, people were killing themselves off of War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
People were killing themselves because they heard an invasion on the radio.
They thought there was an invasion.
And thought it was over.
Right.
Yeah, well,
Awesome.
there was even a cult at a stage where the people were banning cameras because they thought every time you take a flash, it captures your soul.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Well, in a way, it kind of does. It's just not ripping it away. But yeah, photos
No,
can
I
be
mean,
taken as a spiritual interface. I'm serious.
yeah, but I
So-
mean, imagine being scared of someone taking your picture because it's gonna steal your soul, like it's a
Well,
ghost trap
who is
from
that
the
person?
Ghostbusters.
Who is that person? What is he going to do with it? You know, if they're into voodoo shit or whatever, yeah, you got to be careful. And back then, that
Yeah.
thing was basic. Like the whole mindset of everybody back then was completely different to now.
Just relax.
Shall not come.
Everybody relax. Every photo starts with a negative.
Come on, I was bringing scripture, Tent. I said a curse
Not
causeless
Polaroids.
shall not come.
10th man.
Arwen does have a point.
Arwen, are you trying to frame me?
Sorry, your reference frames are ruined.
I got that one.
Yeah, but I don't have any reference
Arwen.
frames. That was a good one, though, Arwen, but direct that to a baller because I don't have any reference frames.
That really hit me. I'd never seen the Earth like they showed it to me.
Neil,
I've
you
heard that
remember?
before, but it didn't hit me like it hit me today. I've never
remember-
seen the Earth like the picture they showed me ever. And nobody
Are you
has,
on-
but everybody
Are
believes
you on
it.
replay or repeat? I'm trying to get in here.
Go ahead. I just been blown away. Blown away.
That math Powerland
Get
point,
on with it.
that math Powerland point
Okay.
is worth reiterating. You know, when I first heard that, I was like, yeah, really good point, math. You know, because it is. You've never seen the Earth as a sphere. The only presentations you've ever had are claimed to have come from these government-owned entities that are selling you heaven, a sky vacuum. But you've never seen the Earth from space. That's a math Powerland point. More credit to him. It's his point. I'm completely stealing it. And I'll credit him every time I use it, because it's his point. He said it in that way. You have never seen the Earth from space.
Well, you blew my mind today, Nathan.
All credit to Math Powerland.
All right, I'll try to get it in now. You remember hearing people say you would never come up with the globe model being on this earth. That had to be designed and fed to you. No one in their right mind would be standing anywhere on this earth and assume they're on the spinning globe 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, going through space in 4 different motions in incredible speeds. No one would even go there. It has to be a spell.
Well,
In
it's
fact-
become a spell, but I disagree though, because yeah, the stars rotating around you, yeah, if it just comes to you, like if you're dealing with a ball or shapes or whatever, it might come to you. It's not that difficult to start that mind experiment. It's just become so elaborated and tied in and everything. But it's
Well,
yeah,
allow me to finish.
sorry.
William F. Buckley Jr., in his video on how to use a sextant, says, I want to simplify it for you. I think you've seen this one, Aaron. I posted it before. He says, look, you have to, when you use the sextant, you have to do what the ancients did. You have to imagine that the earth is motionless and the stars and luminaries are moving for it to work. That's what you got to do. He says it right on the video.
Yeah, but that's reality,
what-
isn't it? The further you
That's
get
exact-
into the details of reality, the further you figure out what is real and what is not. But that doesn't mean that you can't start out like that. I think a lot of kids, without it even being told to them, they could just one day look at the stars and think, wow, it's spinning around us like a sphere, it seems. How can that be? Are we in
Yeah,
a
but it's not
sphere
out as a spell.
or are we on a sphere?
Yeah, but they're not.
Right?
But phenomenally, they make a flat plane because they don't feel movement with their feet, and at best, a sphere rotating around the flat plane. If they didn't think about like ways to interpret it beyond that with like perspective or whatever, or relativity or what have you.
That's true, but you're also everybody starts out as a very little kid. When you're a little kid, the world is very big. If it looks flat to you, you don't necessarily have to then draw the conclusion that everything must be like that. You could think, well, I'm just still very small. Maybe it'll look more spherical when I grow up. Like that, it's not that difficult.
No, it's very difficult because that's why I argued with the science teachers that's not observable reality.
What is observable is a flat, motionless plane with something that appears to be revolving overhead, but that could be interpreted beyond that in several different ways. It could be interpreted due to general relativity, due to perspective, in various different ways.
Listen, even in their own narrative, Pythagoras first proposed the spherical Earth in 500 BC, mainly on aesthetic grounds rather than on any physical evidence. Like many Greeks, he believed the sphere was the most perfect shape. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he thought he liked balls, right? And he based his world on balls that he likes.
Right. Hey.
Well, it had to be
men
because
liking
he
balls.
spheres in the sky.
Men like
Right?
balls on
That's where it
women.
started.
So.
Well, it helps with math because now you have one mathematical abstraction to refer to, as opposed to, much more complicated perspective math. Now it's just a hump of Earth curvature blocking what's in the way. You can, calculate a radius from ratios and just use that to guide the rest of your math. But it may be a mathematical abstraction, not real.
Yeah, but that's not math. That math isn't reality, though. You're just basing it on fantasy.
That's
so
his point. That's his point, Flatzoid.
That's true. That's true. But people like math, because sometimes it can map perfectly to reality, like one apple, 1-to-1. But sometimes it's at best an approximation that, really doesn't.
It's a description, and descriptions can be inaccurate.
Math is only handy because it makes things quicker. It helps oversight by oversimplification. It's very useful, but that doesn't mean that it automatically distinguishes between reality and fictional. So that's on the one doing it.
Well said. So, exactly. So there's no issue utilizing mathematics. We don't have a problem with that. So just because some people take it that we think we're debunking maths or something. No, we're not. The problem is the reification, the taking from abstract and assuming physicality. That's where the issue lies. Now with models, they're very useful for describing things. It's not like we decry all models, but it's when you reify them or assert them as science. So, well, the model is the territory. That's, this sphere-shaped philosophy is the way the world is. Well, no, that's a reification fallacy. It's just a model. We don't live on a model. So, does that mean it's not useful? Yeah, I still take use in the heliocentric model. I used it to learn how the stars worked, as did most people. That's what it's useful for. That's where they've derived it all from. So is it useful? Yeah. But do we stand on a sphere? No. When people assert that we do, that's where we point out the reification from the abstract maths to the actual reality. That's the problem. Not maths. Models is the same. No worries. You want to use a model for stuff, it's very useful sometimes to describe something. Does that mean the description is the reality? Of course not.
Right. The stars and the heavens, the celestial lights are an apparent sphere. The Earth is not, though. But you can mix them up if you mind experiment with that data.
Because I think the
thank you for coming
philosophy of mathematical...
I didn't hear anybody.
All right. Okay, so thank you for bringing it to a crescendo. So when the people who use the sextant for navigation say for it to work, you have to assume the Earth is motionless and the stars are moving, are pretty much telling you what reality is. That's the only way you're going to know where you are. It's not the other way around. They flipped it.
Correct.
Phenomenally, it approaches the most of what we see with us not feeling movement, seeing flatness, and at best seeing them move around. Yes.
Yeah, I agree, but it's the other way around. Lack of phenomenon. In other words, the lack of seeing stuff drift away from us if we were turning. They claim a phenomenon we don't experience.
Right. Because it's a distinction between the nomina, the way a thing is, whether, it's actually moving versus phenomenally, what's brought to our senses. So based off of what's brought to our senses, that would be the closest thing.
What nominal means?
Nomina, well, the way that I was told what it was is the thing itself, what the thing actually is, versus phenomena, which is the stuff that's brought to your senses based off of what that thing is, giving you, like with sensation. Sometimes the phenomena can be a little off. That's what general relativity appears to be based off of.
Sure, you're right about phenomenon. It's something happening, but nominal means existing in name only.
Because I think this goes back to the Greek world with the nomina versus the phenomena distinction.
Right. Gravity is nominally a force. And it's not actually.
Well, it makes sense. Gnome means name. Gnome is name in French, at least. Yep. So every time, NASA wants to say, oh, it's looking nominal, they say that a lot during their little takeoffs.
It's like a tag for an observation.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing wrong with describing things. Just to describe a rock, R-O-C-K, or the pronunciation of those letters, is merely the description and verbalization of how I perceive a thing I'm looking at. But the actual item is the R-O-C-K, not the words or my verbalization of it, or the description or the language used to describe it, or the arbitrary word put on that particular item. None of those things are the physical, actual thing. And likewise, if you haven't got a concrete noun, you've got an occurrence, the description of the occurrence isn't the occurrence. No matter how accurate you describe that occurrence. It's just poetry.
So we aren't anybody's rock cousins anyway.
It wasn't been done for the analogy of rock cousins, but yeah, their description of their origin story with us being formed from rocks, culminating in a description from Michelle Thaler that we've got cousins that are distant rocks, or rocks that are distant cousins, it's just absurd, but it's part of their rhetoric, so I can see the quasi-logic that's got her there.
Hey, I have a cousin named, my third cousin, his name is Rocco Chiricella.
This is where having an Italian on the panel is perfect. Thanks, yeah.
Cousin named Rocco, of course.
Yeah, I got a cousin who's like that.
I want to get back to the word nominal, because isn't that basically just the wrong use of words for optimal? Because that's how I think it's supposed to be. Or just normal.
I was talking about the Greek. I was talking about the Greek philosophy distinction. At least that's what Brenda was talking about with the nomina phenomena distinction. That, as far as I could gather, where a thing is an actual thing like the nomina, versus the phenomena which is brought to our senses, like a mirage, has no nomina behind it. The phenomena is we see some sort of image, but there's no actual thing there, no actual essence beyond like just the light. The nomina is the light, but there's no actual image nomina there. It's just a phenomena brought to our eyes.
That's not
like
true.
That.
I was going to say that's not true. There is something there.
Be pinpointed through causal relation. That's not true.
Yeah, the presentation of what's there may be inaccurate, i.e. inverted, upside down, whatever. But doesn't mean the thing's not there. Doesn't mean there's not an actual thing to see in the first place, distorted in some particular manner, and the phenomena of its distortion would be described as the phenomena of a mirage. Well, that doesn't mean there's not a thing.
Yeah. There would be a nomina of light, but no nomina of an oasis or an actual upside down object that's there. The nomina is totally different, but the phenomena brought to your senses is similar to the actual thing.
Yeah, but hold on, a phenomena is not just material only. That would be a reification. It depends on what the phenomena is about. Is it a light phenomena? Is it a physical phenomena, energy phenomena, chemical? So I think you're reifying a little here.
Something happening.
Well,
That's all a phenomenon is, something happening.
It does the distinction between what the thing actually is versus what's brought to your senses. Basically, that's the phenomena distinction.
Okay,
that
fine.
I gathered from Brenda was talking about this.
I mentioned Brenda a couple of times. Have you recently debated this on topic with something? So is it related to a subject specifically that we can get our teeth into?
Sorry, can I break in for a second?
Versus the phenomena of whether the stars are going around us while we're moving, and or if we're just still and motionless while the stars are going over us, that sort of thing.
I see. I see. She had an affirming the consequent and a false dichotomy to hold up with this example. I understand now.
Yeah, besides, it's ridiculous to imply that there are phenomena that would not reach our senses, because if they didn't, we wouldn't know they were there.
Well, there wouldn't be a phenomenon. If nothing's happening, there is no phenomenon.
That's what I was just going to say.
But there could still be a phenomena there, like, I don't know, an invisible, god or an invisible demon, a phenomena there without a whole lot of stuff phenomenally brought to your senses or whatever in this distinction.
Okay,
phenomena would still be there.
Wonderful. Can we draw a line under this, please? I beg of you. These words will lose all meaning if we keep saying them so many times.
Right, you're crossing fields, because now the things you were referring to, spirits or demons or whatever, those fall in the spiritual category, and you can't really equate that with the workings of physics, under which light also falls.
That's supernatural.
Would you be able to take it now? We have knowledge that there is a God, so that means that there is a phenomenon of God.
Well, let's take it back to the physics. There's invisible light, waves that don't give us much phenomena, like, gamma waves and other stuff, unless we have special, readouts to read what's going on, but there's a phenomena there that we just don't normally see phenomenally or whatever without special equipment.
Yeah,
so that's an unseen nominal thing that's there.
Guys, hold on.
Guys,
hello, just one sec. I've tried a couple of times. I'll try and be really blunt this time. Can we bring this onto a topic that's related to the nature of reality, as opposed to generally talking about words or light? Just how does this relate to the nature of either an assertion that we have a spherical existence, or stars turning around us was the closest we got with Brenda's affirming the consequent false dichotomy? But then we're back onto saying phenomena and nomina over and over again, which is kind of... You ever get that when if you say a word so much that you suddenly start to appreciate the arbitrary naming of the particular thing you're describing? You suddenly realise that it has no meaning, really, because you've said it so many times for whatever reason.
Make it stop.
I'm working on it, Neil. I'm working on it. Does this relate to the nature of the Earth?
The problem was quoting Brenda.
That wasn't the problem. Saying the word phenomena 40,000 times was the problem. I just want to get it back onto something that's related to the nature of our existence, if I can.
Can we talk about the housekeeping question on the distance to the sun? Can we? Yes. I never hear you guys speculate or talk about that very much when it comes up. I was thinking maybe it could be at minimum and then maximum, you could estimate it. At minimum, we fly in a plane and we don't collide with it at 30,000 feet. And then at maximum, where the gas pressure gets very, very little, right?
3 to 10,000 miles by sextants, about 32 miles across. If that, with refraction over a flat plane, without the assumption that the Earth moves.
What are you trying to collide with, though?
I don't know if you're able to collide.
Got to make some assumptions.
Something's there to collide with.
In both globe and flat Earth, they're just assuming it's a physical item, tangible, and it's not. You can't triangulate it if it's not a tangible item, which it isn't. So both flat and globe assert this. Both sides are wrong. They're assuming Well, how does Arwin? He's got beautiful words for these things. Physical assumption bias. Is that wrong? That sounds wrong.
Physical assumption bias. I guess people assume it's physical since it appears to have physical effects with us that are physical with its warmth.
But I want to get the terms right because they're not mine. Is that right, Arwin? When people assume they can triangulate it because they've got an assumption it's physical, you've got some words that you used to describe that better than I'm doing now.
Physicality assumption bias based on a very specific vantage point of the presupposition of the Earth's surface orientation versus the stars. And yeah, the triangulation process requires one of the orientations, in this case the Earth's surface, one side to be specific in order to orientate the triangulation process without having a specific size or distance of the sun as a advantage point knowledge. Basically, that's how it works with that triangulation. It's a weird little trick, and in geometry that works really well. Apparently, it always baffled me a little how that worked, but yeah, whenever they use this, whenever it is done, saying that you can use triangulation to scale the distance of the sun or whatever, it's kind of overlooked that it's very important to give out the specific presupposition orientation of the Earth's surface as a vantage point. That's the specific. Now, flat earthers typically say on a flat Earth, this and that and that. But yeah, you hear that, you don't necessarily realize that is a very important factor in the triangulation process itself. So,
and the assumption it's an item you can triangulate in the first place.
Right. But you need it because you don't have a specific size or distance of the sun, in this case, as a vantage to start out with. You don't have that knowledge.
Right.
No.
Got to make a whole
So
series
does
of
it have a
assumptions.
location and a distance? Does it have a location and a distance?
Yeah, you tell us. Here we go. Good question.
That's what we ask every day.
I would say it would have to have a max distance and a minimum, because it's not down here where we are walking around.
I'm sure.
And
surely.
Yeah, so it's not down here where we are walking around, and the max distance would have to be where the air doesn't escape to space.
Maybe. Maybe.
Well, you can get a 45-45-90 triangle about 3,000 miles from what's deemed the subsolar point of the sun around the equator. And a 45-45-90 triangle is nice because two sides are equal, namely the side that's 3,000 miles from the subsolar point being equal to the distance from the subsolar point up to the sun. So if you're getting 3,000 miles at 45 degrees from there, it would have to be about 3,000 miles-ish up from the subsolar point. But with angular resolution and perspective, there's a lot of optical information compressed and lost beyond angular resolution at the horizon, so that angle may be a little off. But based off of optical geometry, it's about 3,000 miles away, give or take, with refraction over a flat plane.
Oh, really? And how do you acquire that? Based on optical geometry, i.e. it's not actual size, it's apparent size. How'd you get that? Because you'd need an actual size.
That's just using triangles based off of 45-45-90 based to what we see anyway.
Yeah, but it moves, doesn't it? If you try and move closer to it, it moves. It's not a tangible item that you can get a measurement to. You're talking about putting a point of a triangle on it, on that point. But it's an intangible item.
You can't.
Hold on, whoever that is on D+. One sec. Just for the other guy, the guy who started this question. So, Eric, your end question was to essentially put to us, or put to me, or whoever you were talking to, the housekeeping question that you originally, you said, can I ask about distance to the sun? And they said, well, it must have a minimum and maximum, and it must be contained within. Well, those are all assumptions, though. You don't know what it is. So, is it just a reflection off something, as opposed to something physical inside something else? We have no idea. So you've got the same questions we've got, basically, and it brings a smile to my face because you're just asking what we're asking. But when we go around in this sort of little detailed explanation of how you can't triangulate it, you get to the point where you go, well, it's got to be something, right? But we really don't know.
Can I say something on it?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Thanks. It's pseudoscience trying to find out what it is, because I saw two different ways that were done in older times by people who were flat earthers, and they came out between around 53 to 55 miles in width. They tried to say the sun was. I myself, a couple of years ago, tried it. Not what they did. I came up with my own method, and I calculated it at 54 miles wide due to the amount of light it gives at any one time. The amount of light it was giving at the 21st of June and the 21st of December, how much of the supposed Earth was lit up. This is only all going on how much information you can gather, let's just say, on what parts of the world are lit up and what parts aren't. So it's like trying to find out what the sun, how big the sun is nonsense, because you're only seeing, you're not seeing the actual sun. You're seeing the sun, but you're seeing it refracted, and also the sun itself, if you look at it through a solar filter, it appears smaller, and it's, as you said, it's always moving. Like, I mean, you're at nothing really.
All we have are angular relations in relation to specific positions on the Earth. That's all we have. Now, that's quite a lot to use, but yeah, it's just these angular relations, and that's really all the true data that we have.
I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who did tune in on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!